Good morning, and happy Sunday. If you are a replayer, you can still participate. You can tap on the screen for hearts. You can share with anybody that you think needs to hear this message. If you're new to me, you can follow me and join some other time. For everybody joining this morning, anybody does join, good morning and happy Sunday. We'll start in a little bit. See, hi, Bidda honey. My name is joannazarach, and I do a daily Money Habits broadcast. Hi, Kimmy Rob. I do a daily Money Habits broadcast at 10 a.m. Central Time. Hi. And the reason I do it is because I started to think about hi, Joyce. I started to think about what it is that I do that's really benefited me. And one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody and encourage is to develop better money habits. Happy Sunday, yes. Hi. And so as part of my support for habits and developing better habits, when I decided to come on Periscope, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be on every day because that's how important I think the habits are. And habits in general in your life, if you look to anybody who's successful and you ask them what they do, happy Sunday, what they do, they do things consistently, right? And consistency is just another word about habits. But here's what I want to talk to you guys today. I want to talk about the beginning or the start of every journey. And hi, Sandeepa. Sorry I missed you last night. I was not going to make that drive. I think it's important to understand that when you first start, whatever it is you're beginning, whatever stage you're in, good morning, is that your goal should be just a simple one. Hi, tailor-made for one. Is to make it greater than zero. And what do I mean by making it greater than zero? And what do I mean by taking the first step? It's interesting. It's just whenever you are on the spectrum, by the way, you're probably, because you're on Periscope, it's like I make a certain, hi Sandy, I make certain things, maybe certain assumptions, right? Like you're banked, you have a credit card, like all of these things are steps, right? And so you open your first bank account. That's like greater than zero, right? You have a bank account. You get a credit card. You have a credit card. It is a greater than zero. And I want you to understand that you have to keep making those steps and getting to greater than zero. So that's really what I want to talk about. And obviously in the context of investing. So hi, everybody that's joining. If you're new to me, my name is joannazarach, and I do thank you for sharing this broadcast. What I do is I talk about money habits every single day of the week. So 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Central Time. Thank you. I talk about money habits. Hi. I developing better money habits, but also just expanding your knowledge around money. And I do that by actually sharing with you guys everything that I do, by answering questions. Good morning. By answering questions that people may have. I think there's a lot of confusion. Every time I talk about finances with someone, I'm like, wow, people are really confused and they're not really clear. And so then people are stuck, right? And what you're stuck is at the start line, right? And you're afraid of taking the first step. And that's what your goal should be. Thank you for inviting your followers. Your goal, when you're at whichever starting line you're at, right? Again, it's like a lot of times we forget that we've taken the first step in many things. Your first job, your first paycheck, your first bank account, your first credit card, your first IRA, your first 401k contribution. Like all of these are firsts. And when they're behind us, when you've already crossed that line, then you take the next step. But the first step is so important. Yes, start where you are. Acknowledge, look back and acknowledge all the steps you've taken so that you can take that next step. And sometimes what happens is we took that first step once and something happened to put us off track, and you're back at the start line. And it's very hard for people to take that step again because they're actually remembering that they did it and didn't work out. And actually that can be even more discouraging, right? I took that first step. I'll tell you, like from last night, this is not necessarily related to finance, but it's related to people's mentality. So I talk about sometimes my family and how I'm trying to get them, further. So my mom calls me last night because she wants me to buy her an airplane ticket. And I've been annoyed about this because she has a computer, she has the internet, she has a credit card. There's like nothing stopping her. And so, she wanted to, I did the searching for her. I know that like searching and doing searches may be confusing. So I did the searching for her. I told her like what selection, hello. And then I said, what is stopping you from doing it yourself? Right? This is literally the conversation I'm having with my mother. And I said, why is it that you cannot, yeah, comment ça va? Comme ci, comme ça. And je ne peux parler français, so don't let me fool you. I don't speak French, or I don't speak French well enough. Yeah, un petit peu. And so I said, what is stopping you, right? I'm on the phone with my mother. Yeah. And I'm saying, what is stopping you right now? Give me the reason. Give me a reason why it is that you won't buy an airline ticket online when you're sitting in front of the computer. And she says, I'm just scared of doing it wrong. I'm scared of messing up. And I said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to talk you through it. I'm talking my mother through buying an online airline ticket. Because I said, I'm done. I'm done with doing things for people. I know it's hard, but let's think through and let's have you do it. And so, I made her go on southwest.com. So that was the cheapest ticket. And I told her like where to click and to do it and go through all of these stages for yeah. And I mean like it's an example of like, if you bought tickets online, right? Like in this day and age, I was like, I'm buying airline tickets since I was 20 online. But the fear of never having done it before, of taking that first step, can be really, really high. But that's why taking the first step is the most important thing. Right? It's the most important thing in getting on with your journey. And so I did. I talked her through every screen, right? Click here, click here. This is the information you type in, your name. Like there's nothing, buying an airline ticket, there's nothing secret, right? There's nothing tricky about it, in my view. But to her, it was intimidating. She hasn't taken the step, 65 years old. She's been in the US for 30 years. And she's just like, I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong. And I'm like, do you know that there's a policy that people put in place, whoever made the rules, that you have 24 hours for your online ticket purchase to cancel it and no penalty? But she doesn't know. So I made her do it. I made her type in her credit card and her email address. And I was like, doing it over the phone. And then she did it. She clicked purchase and she got the email confirmation. And I said, see, now you've purchased an airline ticket. So next time you want to travel, there's no reason why you just can't go and buy an airline ticket. And she was really grateful, right? But she was just like, she's like, why can't you just do this for me? Why can't you? Have I been to jail? No. No, you know what? Actually, I haven't. Yeah. So when you're trying to help someone, when you're trying to empower someone, it's actually really, really important to have them take that first step. So that's also like, when you learn something or when you're good at something, you need to give that. Would I like to go to jail? I think that's what you're asking. No, thanks. And so that's where you are. You're empowering another person to take that first step. But for you guys, because we talk about money and we talk about investing, right? My big mission in life is to convert people from consumer to investors, because really, on the path to financial freedom, you have to become an investor. You have to invest in something. You have to have your assets generate a return. There's no way around it. There's no way. I don't know anybody who's accumulated wealth and held on to it, right? There are people who are brilliant at creating income and even building things that are worth a lot of money. But once you do that, once you have that money to accumulate and retain wealth, you're going to have to invest. So that's why if you're not an investor yet, I implore you to take that first step, right? To take the first step and become it. Yeah, assets must generate returns. That's why the house you live in is not an asset. It doesn't generate return. Now, it's not to say it's not a bad, it's a bad thing. It's just you have to be aware. You're like, okay, I'm living in my asset. The return you get is that you have a place to live, right? And you're building equity and stuff like that. But it doesn't generate a return. Rental property does. And so it's important to know that. It's important to know that your asset, whatever you're buying into, right? Whatever you're buying, whatever your investment is. I had this conversation 2 days ago with someone about whole life insurance, one of my favorite topics. And I said, whole life insurance is not an investment. It's not paying you back. Good morning. And it's not generating a return. And yes, you've accumulated some cash value. But the question I always ask is, what could you have done with that money, right? What could you have done with that $5,000 a year to generate a return, right? To build that. And so when you are evaluating investments, actually, I was listening to this morning. One of the things I do, guys, I listen to so much financial information and I learn. And actually, I would like to show this resource because I just really didn't. I put it through. I found it on YouTube. I had on my. It's the American Institute for Economic Research. And some YouTube videos, I don't know, I stumbled upon one of the videos. It was from 2013, but it was like, personal finance, like the messages are all the same. Like it's like, I love listening to this video. It was sponsored, American Institute for Economic Research, and they were talking about investing and risk management. And I'm like, I love it, right? I love that the validation that the message needs to get out there for whatever means necessary was great. But they talked about the thing I harp on. The guy was like, first of all, you need to understand what you're investing in yourself. Like, he said, don't trust your financial advisor or lawyer. And it wasn't like don't believe him, but like don't just take other people's word for it when you're investing or when you're making a decision, right? Like, and this is all going to run out because if you don't understand the investment, it's a bad idea. Like you need to, and I always say like start investing today and start investing in like things that are least complicated, which to me is a mutual fund that's an index fund. And if you need to, it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to explain to someone what an index fund is and why invest in it and why it's low cost. Because that should be simple, right? That's why I say always start with the simplest thing possible and then expand your knowledge once you started doing it. But whenever someone's trying to sell you an investment and they can't explain it to you really, like how the returns are being generated, like you really need to question that. I have no idea what an IUL is. Google, what's an IUL? I'm Googling it right now. Index Universal Life Insurance. Yeah. Oh, look, Investopedia. I don't know. I Googled it. I'm not a big fan. So life insurance policies are a financial vehicle that's very beneficial for people with large asset base and has a little bit more. It's like I'm actually reading. So I'm reading this article on Investopedia. So I'll educate myself. I'm not a big fan. I'm not life insurance policies are not investment, guys. Mutual funds, yes, mutual funds. I'm a big believer in the, this is a permanent life insurance policy. So, I'm just reading what an IUL is. Some financial gurus, this is from Investopedia. I always go to an independent source, right? So Investopedia has an article on IUL, and it says some financial gurus urge investors to steer clear of whole life policies altogether, repeating the old maxim, buy term and invest the rest. With IUL, however, the debate is particularly fiery. Even New York's top insurance regulator has called into question the sales practices surrounding this trendy form of insurance. It's regardless of whether you happen to be a believer in this specialized insurance product. So I'm not because I don't believe in using insurance product as investment vehicles. I really think that investing needs to happen separately. And it says it's almost always a good idea to maximize your 401k and IRA before putting any money into an IUL policy. So here's my thing on the continuum. On the continuum of investment and financial products. Here's the thing. pay off your credit cards first, right? This is like number one. You're going to have to pay off your credit cards first. And by paying it off means if you're carrying a balance that's incurring interest rates, pay it off. Mutual funds. I like low cost. I like low cost, diversified index. I don't like actively managed funds. Why? Because I think people think they're way too clever, and they charge you fees for thinking they're way too clever. By the way, just this morning, I read about Sequoia Fund. Sequoia Fund has been one of these like greatest actively managed fund, and it's in a downward spiral. So it ran its course, and now it's not doing so well. Right, and what happened was they had almost a third of their assets invested in a single company, Valiant Pharmaceuticals, right? And I don't know enough about that, but they, like whoever the fund manager was, he kept betting on this one company, third, and that company's in a downward spiral, and it's bringing out the entire $5.6 billion fund, and the guy's lost his job. The guy's being fired. The investors, they will recover eventually, but the whole thing is that like actively index funds. So what's the difference between index funds and even other mutual funds and actively managed? Index is just that. So I explain index as in an index funds, the rules are built in. Basically, it has to follow. Like it's like S&P 500 takes the 500 companies that are in the S&P, whatever it's defined, and that's the investment. There's no other like, let's pick this stock, let's sell this stock. They're just like it's just an assortment. So like to me, the way I think about it is the rules are made for an index fund, which means that you don't have to pay anybody a whole lot of money to be so smart and do analysis and do all these things, right? When you have other index funds, or when you have like a small cap, which is just it's a basket. It's a basket of all these funds in this portfolio. No one's going in and be like, today I'm going to buy this, or I'm betting on this, right? Like Sequoia, where they were like Valiant Pharmaceuticals. I don't know what the fuck Valiant is. Like, what do they sell? Like, I'd be like, oh my God, But those investors trusted these guys because they've had a really, really good track record for a long time. And then this like one stock that this, $2 billion of this like fund is this one stock. And the independent board directors have quit because they were arguing about like how much exposure they have, right? And now it's like they had a good run. So the thing is, though, maybe some of these investors that have been with Sequoia for a very, very long time may have done better overall anyhow. But let's say someone joined the fund 3 years ago, and then they put the money in, and now they have less money because in the last 3 years they've done really poorly, rather than leaving in an index. So for me, the questions of where to invest is like simplest first, cheapest, right? Simplest and lowest fee. And I'll tell you, I consider myself a conservative investor, but that's not because I don't invest in the stock market. I just invest in like boring index funds. Like I'm boring. I guess maybe the thing should be I'm a very boring investor. I don't, and by the way, I read an article yesterday that said women make better investors. I think women think longer term. They ask questions. They want to understand, right? Like, why are you here? Because you want to learn and you want to understand how things work. And I think that women have a higher degree of doing that. This is why women do better in school, where we have a higher rate of graduation right now. Now we lack some things that are disadvantaging us, assertiveness, confidence, aggression, asking for things before you deserve them and stuff. Yeah, boring. Like, I just mean like, the companies like the S&P 500, I follow advice that's kind of boring. Like I don't pick stocks, I don't buy and sell, right? There's just no excitement in my investing. I buy and hold, and they're all mutual funds. I do look for other alternative investing. I try to evaluate it, right? Like I've talked about Lending Club, and like I've been doing it for 3 years. I've kind of seen what's happened. My 2013 lending, and I think at that time I was doing some 5-year loans versus just 3-year loans. But that's about all the principal from that tranche of loans has almost been paid off. And so that's what I mean by like boring. I do buy and hold. I'm a long-term investor. I I look at tax deferred and the tax. I had this long conversation about the difference between tax deferred and tax free investing. You know, when you take tax deduction, like things like that, things that are boring, that most people think like, oh well, you know, I just really want someone else to do that. I always recommend Vanguard. So why do I recommend Vanguard? I mean, there are other places. I know some people do Fidelity. I do like a lowest cost, lowest fees. So Vanguard has been the market leader in providing the lowest cost mutual funds for a long time. So it's not just my opinion. It's just actually like if you do the research, Vanguard. That's for mutual funds. I know that there are new there's a lot of new financial technology companies. Yeah, that's why I've been a Vanguard investor since '98, and I highly recommend it because it's just the lowest cost. Lending Club is for accredited investors, so you do need to qualify because it's a higher risk investment. I do recommend it though, and there's other companies like it, like Prosper. I think there's been other borrowers, peer-to-peer borrowers. And Lending Club as a stock, stay away. They did an IPO, they crashed down. You know, like so. There's two different things. So Lending Club is a peer-to-peer lending platform, and I just started doing it. I feel like I just started. It's been 3 years. And again, it's a very, very small part of my portfolio right now. And the rest is just mutual funds. And I do, by the way, I have a strong cash position. Why? Because the market has been pretty volatile. And I buy some stocks. I have been buying some stocks or mutual funds over the last 3 years. But I've also built up a strong cash position. Again, I just read Warren Buffett. I'm like, let's find the smartest person in the room and ask them questions. And if you can't ask them questions directly, yeah. So again, I do it from an investor perspective. I'm a lender in that, but it also like if you're trying to consolidate loans and stuff, it could be a place. So anyway, on the continuum, but back to like my point I was making. Sorry, I got a little carried away. In the continuum of investing or financial vehicles, pay your credit cards off first, then take advantage of tax deferred investments like traditional IRA and your traditional 401k. See if you can do Roth. Roth won't give you a tax deduction today, but it'll grow tax-free and you can withdraw it tax-free. 529 plans, if you have education goals for yourself or your children or any relatives, 529 plans are good. And then obviously for risk, term life insurance policies, if you have dependents. If you have no dependents, really not a huge need for you to have term life policies. You can, but I'm saying like all these other things first, right? Term, obviously, if you have dependents, it's very important. And then whole life insurance policies, those like cash value life insurance policies, whatever they're called, IULs, that's really far to me. It's kind of, see how it's going off screen? That's kind of where I see it as a benefit. I think it does have some a place for estate planning, but I always think of it like I have cutoffs. Like I'm like, you have more than $5 million in assets. Yeah, I'm sure whole life policy is like a vehicle around estate taxes. And of course, or if you're older, you won't be able to get term, right? If you're like 65 or 70, like that's not an option. So it also depends like where you are in your financial stage. That's why whole life insurance, see, you can't see my hand, it's over here in terms of value. There's all these other things that I believe, and the math shows, the math for me, the math works to do first before you do that. And it's like if you see if you have a limited amount of cash, if you have an unlimited amount of cash and you're like, hey, you know what, I did all this, I maxed it out, I have my Roth 401k, I started my business, like investing into your business. If you did all that, it depends how much, right? Like I'm a maxed it out person. I try to max out every tax efficient and tax vehicle, and other tax deferred vehicle because, and on top of it, like we have some investment brokerage accounts. Those are all post tax and we pay tax on that every year, like on the gains, right? So I see that and I go, wow, I'd really love my money to grow tax free. By the way, you can do a traditional IRA that's not tax deductible, and it's kind of like a split because I think that you won't be taxed on the principal when you withdraw it, and the earnings grow tax free, and it's going to be complicated when we're taking money out, like when I'm really old. But I don't know. I'm like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there because I have some Roth vehicles as well. So I think you should max out if you're putting away 30% of your income of what you bring in, it's kind of when I think of what your goals should be, it should be 30%, maybe more. And if you're like, okay, between my 401k and my IRA, I think you should just, if you're eligible to do the traditional or a Roth, you should do it. I think you should. And then like if you have money left over, 30, how do I live? Make more money. So income, right? Like you guys, five levers of wealth, right? I think I haven't checked the minimum. I think it might be 1,000 for certain funds. In the IRA, it might be a little bit, like I know their IRAs are a little bit like more generous. And then that's why I said there's some technology solutions these days, like Acorns. And I know like there are what the hell is that? It's not Personal Capital. There is a Wealthfront or Betterment, and I think they have lower thresholds, so you can like use it to build up your investment account and then maybe transfer to Vanguard, because those do have they have smaller fees than a financial advisor, but they do have fees. I know some of them are trying to incentivize people to get started with them. Yeah, I did recommend Vanguard, but if you don't have enough money, like if you don't have enough money for the minimum, I would say just start somewhere else. But if you can, like, then you might have to save up for Vanguard, right? Like, so I think 1,000 is at least the minimum. Some funds is, well, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Vanguard. Let's see what funds minimums. Let's see. I would go to Vanguard and would say personal investors and say like what are the fund minimums, because I know some have like 5,000 minimums. I think the S&P index is the one of the lowest one. Vanguard Mutual Fund. Let's look. Choose your mutual funds. Well, so again, the term insurance is it's basically it's for your death, right? So if you die, if you have dependents that are not earning income, then that's protection for them. And so when my term runs out, my children right now, I have no need. I'm optimistic that my children will have jobs or some other means of supporting their basic needs. So therefore, maybe when my term runs out, I won't get another life insurance policy. I think when I'm maybe older, I might then look into that whole life, depending on the state of my estate. But that's like, I just won't get another one, because by that time, I don't have small children that depend on me for taking care of them. And, if you die, therapy or whatever they need, prevention of them having huge emotional trauma. So then I wouldn't get another term, I guess, because like I also invest a lot. Yes. Once you pay off your credit cards, the next thing is investing. 3,000 minimum. So yeah, no, I like I said, I haven't looked at those minimums in a long time, but I should probably I'll do some research. And so yeah, I know that's been a complaint for some people that Vanguard does have sort of high minimums. So that's why I said if you don't have $3,000 to open a fund, you may want to do like the build up through investing through Acorn Betterment and then roll it over. So just a thought, or just save up, right? Like, people are like, how do you live if you put so much on investments? Well, you've got to earn more. The 5 levers of wealth is income. Number one, like you've got to solve, once you've learned a job or have some skills, like figure out how you can make more money with your skills or start a side business. I've had my own consulting agency for the last 6 years. I could have just worked. I know people with my same skill set who just work for other people, and they may be still independent contractors, but yeah, that's a plan. Always aim for earning more income, on understanding where those income sources may come from. Sandy, yes, I am cheap, if she's still on here, does a great job explaining how to make money on Amazon. Like there are people who will teach you how to make money teaching other people what you do. Like this is like the explosion of coaching of every kind. By the way, coaching is just like a new word for therapy. Sometimes it's just people talking you through it. There are people who teach you how to make money on blogs. Now, none of that is easy, and none of that happens overnight. But if you don't start, by the way, if you don't take that first step in building more income, then it's never going to happen, right? That's my whole message for today, for Sunday, is to recognize how important that first step is. And yeah, you may run into roadblocks. You were like, oh, but I only have $100. How am I supposed to open a Vanguard? Okay, so that's an objection. Well, how you get to 3,000, right? Like, and you're like, well, if I'm gonna have $3,000, I'm gonna buy this new laptop. I'm like, okay, that's a choice. Yeah, you have to start somewhere and start, but starting is so, that first step is just so important. Like if you want to make more money, right? I want to do passive income because I didn't know about smart passive income and now I'm like obsessed. Well, you need to earn money, right? You need to earn the money. And the way you earn the money is by you provide something of value. When I was younger, I didn't have any special skills. So I traded my time for $7.25 an hour, right? And I did that like a lot. Like in college, I worked 30 hours a week. Hi, how are you? I worked 30 hours a week at $7.25 an hour. Because I didn't have any special skills. I couldn't, by the way, I had a friend of mine, went to MIT. Yeah, there you go. That's right. Learn something from someone. And Sandy's terrific. Like, I don't know jack about selling on Amazon. I just don't. I've never done it. And I'm like, wow, Sandy, like I can learn something. Yeah. And so the thing is that when you first start out, you have no special knowledge. But my MIT friend, who majored in music, by the way, you're like, he went to MIT major in music? Yeah, because you know what he did in the 90s? He taught himself how to program HTML. The fucking World Wide Web was just starting out. And the dude spent his entire time going to music, majoring in music, which basically gave him a lot of free time to do a website. And you know what his website was? He was a Soundgarden fan. It's a throwback. And he had a fan website. Like that's, he like curated that. And then, yeah, that's right. Learn from Sandy. Learn from someone who's not only teaching about it, but she's done it and she's been very effective and making money at it. Always learn from people who have been effective at something. If someone's trying to teach you wealth, make sure that they got money in the bank, right? Like if they're trying to teach you wealth and then they have credit card bills that they don't pay off and you're like, I don't know, how did this work? How's it work out for you? Or they're trying to sell you whole life insurance as a way of getting rich. And they're like, did you get rich off of buying whole life insurance? I don't know. Like explain to me how it works. Oh, thank you. And so always learn from someone who has always a learner. So again, when you first start out in your 20s, you may not have any special skills that you can learn. Like I think that Gary Vaynerchuk, if you don't follow him, he's really terrific in terms of inspiring people to do it. He's like your 20-year-old life coach. Like what life experiences have you had that qualify you to give other people, someone like in their 40s, coaching? And sometimes you just got to look at your own life experience. So I have a friend, for example, about investing. And a lot of it is about starting. I'll give you an example of my friend who is unfortunately going through a divorce with small children. She's been going through it for 2 years, by the way. The guy's, it's such a hard time. And I'm supporting her by one of the things I did is I went through our financial situation for her. And I said, look, you're all right. Here is the choices. She was like, I don't know what to do. This is a settlement agreement. But the thing that she's gone through this really hard thing for 2 years, there are people who are coming to her and say, will you coach my friend? Because they're just starting the process. And I was like, business opportunity, because she can share however painful her knowledge is. She has the knowledge and she's like towards the end of the process. And her only thing is like, I don't know the finances that well. So I can team up with her and we can teach. I don't know anything about divorce proceedings with children, right? So I couldn't I can't be that helpful. But she does because she's lived through it. So whatever you've lived through, you can teach it to people, right? But you have to live through something. And I'm not always recommending a traumatic experience. But again, if you've done something for 2 to 3 to 4 years, you've tried it, you've started a blog. Look, if you have a blog and you sold an ad on it, that's more than I've done. I don't have a blog. I have a website. And so you can figure out how to learn that. But you're not going to do it. You're going to start and you're going to keep trying and trying. And then you're going to, one day, you'll have some success. But if you're like, oh, I opened a blog to pay my rent, it's not going to happen for a while, right? You've got to be committed to whatever you're doing. October 20th was my first Periscope. So yeah, I'm here on Periscope, and by the way, I appreciate you guys being on here. Like that's a lot of Periscopes can be very time consuming for as a watcher. I know I've done it as both, and so I really appreciate it. Like I'm in awe that people are giving me their attention. I'm very grateful because I'm like itching to give this knowledge, but I had no idea how to get people on. Like because again, I don't have a website, I don't have Twitter, I don't have anything. I was just like, I'm just gonna start and see. It's been, what, 4 months now? 5 months? Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I want you to recognize on October 19th, Monday. So this is not a long time ago. It was my first Periscope. It had no title. It had no topic. I just went on and I just started talking. And, there's a bunch of trolls. And I was like, no one was listening. And then the first, 7, I started using a title. And they were like 1 word or 2 words, right? And so, but 4 months later, day in, day out, I have people listening to me. Oh, yeah. Of course. No, I understand, Periscopes are time consuming, but I want you to know that there is a resource for you guys to learn about the ins and out of finance and also the sequencing. And I try to create tools to demonstrate why my advice, I question myself. I say, oh crap, I gave this advice. Am I right? And when I do my spreadsheets, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so I'm on point. Yeah, thank you. And I try that because I try to, I'm trying to teach people. Yeah, I try to teach people what I know, and what I know I've learned over the last 20 years, right? It's taking me a long time to get to where I am. And a lot of classes and a lot of doing and a lot of things. Yeah, I'm French répète ça. Okay. I don't know what that means, but it's distracting. But that's the thing. So, yeah, the five levers, I keep getting off track. Income, taxation, investing, big purchases, and risk are the 5 levers, of wealth. And the whole thing is that people are not paying enough attention to it, right? Like if you don't understand if you have a business and you're living off of your entire revenue, and in a tax time you have no money to pay for taxes, you're going to have a crisis, right? If you're carrying credit card debt, and you think, oh well, I can invest as well, or if you invest off of debt, you're not going to outpace the returns are never that much more, not over a long time, right? There's always some opportunity within today, within this era to jump on, and some people jump on and they win, and then they jump off, and then other people get in when it's on the downslide. Oh yeah. Oh, good night. Thank you for joining from across the pond. Good night. Yeah, thank you for listening, and for sharing. You have to do more. Yeah, you have to do more than save, right? That's the other thing, right? Like saving's not enough. That's why I'm such a. So here's my real estate investing. I actually had this conversation on Thursday. I had this conversation on Thursday with a real estate broker. She's been a broker for 12 years, and her husband quit his job. Her husband's really handy. So they are going to be buying real estate property. She's a real estate broker. She has been in real estate for 12 years. She has gone through the recession, right? The housing crash. She has a lot of knowledge. Yes. So how much? It depends on your interest rate. Like, what's your debt settlement, and is it charging an interest rate? Yeah. So the debts are funky. So debts, if you have, if it's credit card debt, if it's double digits, so more than 10%, for sure pay off your debts. If you're right around there, yeah. If your debt's only 2.7%, a lot of student loans or mortgages are 2, 3, 4%. You're actually better off investing in tax deferred account for cash flow, right? We're talking about cash flow limited resources where you just don't have enough cash to do everything, and you're making trade-offs. The trade-off at the lower rates of debt, if you're paying just making your monthly payments, right? No, don't default, pay your monthly payments. Then you're better off setting some money to invest in a tax deductible account, because it's going to free up some cash flow, or a 401k at work, because you're going to start building your net growth, and your net worth, and you're going to take advantage of the compounding. But you got to make sure your cash flow can accommodate that as well. Like if you're just barely making ends meet and you have an emergency, like sometimes, again, depending on emergency savings, here's my thought on emergency savings. If you're just a single person who's renting, like if you have literally no liabilities, like children or mortgage or something that you've signed up for, and you can take a little bit more risks, right? Because you have to have like an emergency plan. Like an emergency savings is when you can't effectively and execute on any plan. Like, when I was younger, I'd be like, hey, I can move in with my parents. I mean, it would suck, but I could still do it. Like right now with 2 kids and a mortgage, like that's not, it's still an option. Like if everything goes really, really bad, like I feel like I have some emergency solution. But if you don't have an emergency solution, emergency savings are really, really important. And then if you have fewer liabilities, maybe take a little bit of risk and start investing. So that's what I would recommend. So I don't know the terms of your debt settlement, but that's really that's the point. But I would recommend everyone start investing. I invested when I had student debt. I had mortgage. I had not a lot of income. Like I was a grad student. I was making 18 grand, right? Like, and you're like, how do you invest 2,000? Well, you just live very, very cheaply. You live a grad student life, and it's like people excuse it though, which is nice. Real estate question. Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, so the yes, flipping, and so only do that if you have knowledge, right? Only do the real estate. So the point was that this woman who's a real estate broker for 12 years, her husband is also becoming a real estate broker, and he's a handy guy. He can fix stuff. They're like, here's how we're gonna make money on rental real estate. And I said, you know what? For your case, that's no problem. For your case, that's a good idea because you guys have a skill set that's unique. For me to invest in real estate would be a little bit tragic because I just don't know enough. Like, and I don't also want to deal with managing. So it depends. Just make sure you know what it's going to cost you. So here's the thing. Here's what people do with rental real estate. And it's actually happened. And I've read it a lot of, go to Quora. By the way, Quora has some really great experts that answer questions about real estate investing. And the one guy, and he's been investing in real estate for 30 years, and he's in Milwaukee. He's like, here are some points. First of all, only buy real estate. Only invest in your real estate if it's actually within 30 minutes of where you are. Quora. 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 It's a place where people ask questions. Anyone can ask questions, and you can look for it. I actually get a digest, I think, every day because I've signed up for finance investing, and people with way more knowledge on topics answer those questions than me. And I read this. So this real estate guy was like, here's the thing. People got in this mode of like, real estate investing. And they were buying real estate property that they've never seen. Like they were going in to invest. They were buying real estate out of state rental properties, and they were paying property management fees, right? They didn't understand like the vacancy rates, rental, like there's a fee for everything. Dave Ramsey has a lot of good materials as well. I know people like him in terms of his, I don't think a lot of what I say conflicts with what he says. Like personal finance, like you'll start hearing the same things from a lot of people. When you hear something completely opposite, ask what that person's selling you. And so for real estate, it can be effective. So I have another good friend of mine who is, again, he's general contractor, right? He's always known how to fix up buildings. He knows the market, and he's been doing real estate investing. Good morning. He's been doing real estate investing for 20 years. And he's like, I'm scared of the stock market. I would rather do real estate investing. So if you have taken the time to learn and maybe practice, but don't go all in where you don't hand over all your money to someone else and say, you make me money, right? Because that's just not going to happen. But people have done it, right? They're like, hey, this guy, he seems really legit. And if I just give him my $20,000, he's going to make me money, right? Because that's what we would love to have, is to have effortless money making. So real estate investing takes effort. It takes learning and knowledge and work. And people do it. So if you're going to be a successful real estate investor, you need to learn about this. You need to learn. You need to go. I would say I would probably, if I wanted to do it, I would probably spend a year learning about it at least. And then I would pair up with someone like my friend who I trust. I would say, okay, show me the numbers. How is this going to work? Right? Right. How is this going to work? Like I would want for him to explain to me how I make money on this. I'm like, okay, if I give you 20 grand, how much do I get every year? Oh, you're going to get $500. Okay. Or is that good or bad? Like you do your math and say, what are all the fees? What are all the costs? What's the risk? And learn for yourself. And there's like spreadsheets. People like to sell you a spreadsheet for $20. I found it somewhere, like a real estate spreadsheet. But do the math, right? It is. You've got to get to know that other person, right? If you marry within like 2 weeks and then you find out that they have, from a financial standpoint, like a lot of debt, or they're a gambler, or, something, or you find out they have another family, but you're not legally tied. Like a marriage, by the way, is a legal contract between you, the other person, and the state that you married in, or that you live in, depending on the rules. It's a contract. So it's the same thing. If you're going to invest, if you're going to partner with someone. So yeah, I think that you can accelerate your knowledge by partnering with someone in investing in real estate. Flipping, once again, people who are extremely successful flippers know what the hell they're doing, right? So why don't you partner with someone who's already good at flipping and learn from them, right? Apprenticeship is so undervalued. Don't get yourself into a financial contract you don't understand. I watched The Big Short. Highly recommend that movie. I watched The Big Short on Friday night, and or was it Thursday night? Thursday night. And that should, just watching that movie, you can learn about like why the mortgages went bad. It is like, get to know your investment, read the fine print, do your math. If it's like a last minute, if it's like a limited time offer, pass on it. There's always going to be more opportunities in the future. If this day is the only day for you to hand somebody money, then you need to, you should always be able to walk away and think about it. If you can't walk away to think about something, that opportunity is not real. Pass. That's right. So that's my view. I think real estate and investing, it's got a lot of potential for people to make money, and I know people who've been very successful. But it's also it requires knowledge, and it requires work. Like you will never make money by just can you do that from Mexico? I don't know, invest in real estate. Yeah, that's right. Like find out the basics. I would imagine you can manage some properties from Mexico, but you'd have to pay someone on site. That's the thing. You have to have a property manager who can access your property, like physically access your property, because things go wrong. That's what the thing with real estate. It's actually a thing, like a building, and unless it's brand new, things will go wrong. Like think about if you've owned a house. So by the way, I would not recommend. And the family's not always good, right? People are not that motivated, right? They say they'll do it, and then they're doing you a favor. You're paying them. Like, how does the agreement work? And have you spelled out? Have you made an employment agreement with them? So you need to know if you've never owned a house. Yeah, like you have, like Joy has terrific knowledge about property management, right? So I would say for her, she's actually seen some bad stuff happen to property. Oh, the other thing is, if you've never owned your own property, like we live in a condo that I'm responsible for, if you've only had to call your landlord for problems, owning real estate may not be for you, right? Unless you're like, hey, I've been taking notes. Every time I called my landlord, I see what he has to do, and he has to pay for it, and he has to get the fridge to work, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And if you've been taking notes on what your landlord does, so maybe. But if you've just been like, hey, when shit breaks, I just call my landlord. And when you own a house or you own a rental property, you are the landlord. Like you start calling, you're like, let me dial this number, and your phone starts ringing, and you're like, shit, I gotta take care of it. And you gotta take the time and have the knowledge, and you'll have to be out the money. So you always have to know what the hell it's going to cost for you to maintain it. And if you buy property that's all broken up, That's right. Well, yes, right. And you know more than I do, right? Like, and you know more about this than I do. I'd be like, Joyce, what does it take? What can go wrong with property, right? How much insurance, how much liability you have? What about vandalism? What about like, and tenants, right? And dealing with tenants. For God's sake, if you're in Chicago, like it's not a landlord favored town. It's a very pro-tenant. It's a very pro-tenant laws. So you need to know the laws too around that. So there's a lot of knowledge. And so that's why I don't do real estate investing. Aside, I live in my house. That's not real estate investing, by the way. I live in a cheap house. A lot of you have an old home, right? So yeah, so you would want to talk to someone. By the way, Joy, that's a knowledge that you have. Think about that. Think about that. Dig in and think about all the knowledge. Start writing this stuff down. What is that you have knowledge of that other people don't? Because it's just like something you did in your job. And so you could be educating people on it, old property costs, commercial property building management. What's it take? Lots of legal things. Right. So I don't do it because it's kind of scary to me. I don't understand it. Like, I don't want to deal. I don't like calling contractors. I make my husband do it. Like, I don't like managing people. Why am I solopreneur? Why am I a management consultant who refuses to hire other people? Because I, quite frankly, not good at managing people. And I know this about myself. And I'm never going to be good at it. You know what I'm good at? Spreadsheets. Client relationships, right? Yeah, Yes, I Am Cheap. Definitely follow Sandy. She's at Yes, I Am Cheap. She'll teach you stuff. Everybody teaches what they know. So I teach stock market investing because that's what I know. And that's what I'm comfortable with. And I've been very successful at it. And not by like any means of something clever. I've just been consistent, right? This is all I teach is I'm like, guys, if you're consistent, hi, how are you? If you're consistent and you take advantage of tax deferrals, you will get the, okay, hello. Oh, sorry. Cancel this block. There's, and I know it well, right? Because I've been thinking about it and I've been studying it. I've been experiencing it. To me, the biggest thing about stock market investing and mutual fund investing is I've experienced it. Like literally have been doing it, and the 401ks and all the plans, like every single tax deferral plan, I have an account. I have a Roth IRA. Can't contribute to anymore because phased out income wise. Traditional IRA, tax deductible. Traditional IRA, not tax deductible. Regular 401k from work. Individual 401k, individual Roth 401k. Yeah, that's right. Spreadsheets are part of property management. I have employee and employer based. My husband has a 403b plan and a 457 plan. I have two 529 plans, right? Like, so I talk about these things because I literally have them in my portfolio. The best place to do is if you're an employee and have a 401k plan for work, because it's just the simplest. Make sure you start contributing to it. Like then it's it. Boop, you became an investor. Like that. Go to your HR department and sign up. If you don't have an option at work, then you can have, okay, do you have any income? Or do you have any cash, right? I would say create some income through a business, right? Because a lot of the tax deferred stuff is through an income. But if you can't take advantage of tax deferrals, just, open a brokerage account, an investment, it's a, taxable investment account. However much you can spare. I kind of invest everything I have left over. So if you're paying off your credit card debt, I usually say if you have your emergency fund, like it's the priorities, right? How much cash did you have? Like I would feel comfortable investing. And again, because see my age, when I first started, I always made sure I had $1,000 in the bank, right? Again, I had not a lot of responsibilities when I was younger. And after I had $1,000 in the bank, I would make a goal to max out my IRA. So I literally my mind worked at maxing out the tax deferred things and just working my budget around it. I would say look at your monthly expenditures and at least have 1 month of money in the bank for sure. If you're not working, like what are you going to live on, right? Like emergency savings. Do you have a spouse that's working? Like I would want to understand your cash flow situation to really give you a specific number. But if you have a month, if you have 6 to 12 months emergency savings, if your credit cards are all paid off, then I would say, okay, based on your cash flow, like just start investing 10 grand, 20 grand. I don't know. I would really look at your liabilities, your monthly liabilities first, and what are you responsible for and how you're going to pay for it. Because I never want people to invest and get in a spot at least. So I've had $1,000 since I was 19, 18. My first $1,000 I said I never spent, and I go correction. My first $1,000 I gave to my parents because they didn't have enough money for us to move, and I was like 15. And then the next $1,000, but the next $1,000 I legitimately earned, I never spent it. I always had that in my account. Now it's way more. I have the 6 to 12 emergency savings account just in cash because I'm a solopreneur. Income is not guaranteed. What if my husband gets laid off? Yeah, just have it. I have a lot. It helps me sleep at night. So invest above that. But it's really, it really just think about your situation. Here's what I don't want people to do. I don't want people to start investing and then get in a cash crunch, right? And then have to go back to credit cards, right? Where you're going to get the money. What to invest in? Mutual funds, index funds. Again, I started in an S&P 500 index fund. You can do a whole market. Like, look at just Vanguard low-cost mutual funds. That's a long-term investing, right? Like, if you're going to become a stock trader, it's a whole different thing. I don't encourage it. I don't know how to do it. So I don't talk about it because I only talk about the things I know. So if you're like, nah, I wanted something more, risky or more fun, more entertaining, more gambly, then there's probably someone who can teach you that. But for me, mutual funds all the way. I like tax deferred accounts. So I talk about what I know. Is it the best answer for everybody? Well, I don't know, but it works, right? Like here's where I go. It's effective. Warren Buffett says it's effective. A lot of other people I respect, listen to, and I know that their net worth's pretty good, are doing it. It's effective. So that's all. But start with small, and I'll look into the minimum. I have run into this minimum thing. I have to figure out how to get people to invest when they only have a few $100s. And again, the reason I mentioned a 401k, yeah, I would do mutual funds. So, but first make sure I hesitate because I don't know your cash flow situation. If you're not working, like, where's the money coming from? Like, not that I'm like, where's your money coming from? But like, where's is your spouse working? If you have a spouse, okay. So you're eligible to open an IRA because you have a spouse that works. And so I would go to Vanguard and I would open an individual retirement account. Now, look at your tax bracket and research it. And you can even call Vanguard and say, here's our income level. And they can tell you if you're eligible for traditional. You can just Google it. If you're eligible for a tax deductible or Roth, I would do those. If you're no longer eligible for those, you still can get a non-deductible traditional IRA. It's just a vehicle, like IRAs are vehicles, or you can just open a brokerage account with Vanguard for mutual funds if you're doing a post-tax investing. And then I would encourage you to figure out how you can make income. So probably Vanguard, you won't be able to do it in mutual funds. You probably can do it with like TD Ameritrade. You can do I think all of those places do allow you to invest into mutual funds or exchange traded funds. So let me research that a little bit more. I know that at low levels, at lower amounts, I'm not as clear myself because it's been such a long time, right? Like now all my accounts have been established for a really, really long time. So I stopped paying attention to the minimums, right? So let me research that and actually maybe do it on Tuesday afternoon on getting started investing with just a few $100s and give you guys some options that I research and I feel pretty good about. So I just don't feel comfortable giving advice because it's been a long time since I was in that situation and things have changed, right? Like 20 years ago, it was a lot lower minimums than now. You can find me on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, I know if it's the same, are you the same handle? I'll follow you back and you can just direct message me on Twitter. Yeah. So Candy Thorne. Yeah, are you, okay. That'll do that. Yeah, no, I need to research that because it's coming up a lot, right? What was your question? iCloud Ganyan. I don't know what your question was. Can you ask it again? And I'll answer it. I speak French. I don't really speak French, Je ne parle pas français. So, I don't speak French. I don't speak French well anyway. So, okay, guys, thank you so much. It's been it was a lot of questions, so, it's okay. thank you so much for your attention, for your time. I know most people had left. The message really was around taking the first step in whatever you are. And I like the challenge to figure out, if you're just starting investing, what should you do with just a few $100s? I have to research it and really have to think about what are the good options that I would recommend to people to do in the immediate. I like the challenge. I'm taking on the challenge, and we'll talk about that at length probably next week to just try to figure out some options. Thank you guys again for your attention, your encouragement, and your time, and for sharing this. And I'll be on tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll work towards it. So yeah, my goal will be to work towards it on Tuesday. Let me just check my calendar. Sometimes I have stuff on my calendar where I can't do that. But 5 p.m., I think I'm good. Yeah, at 5 p.m., my 5 p.m. Money Matters, I'll talk about investing. So wait, so I can, again, I don't want to giving advice when I'm just really unsure. So I'm going to wait and research that and see, maybe there's somebody else that can also, I can direct you to, that already has answered that as well. So we'll look into the options of getting started in investing. And then on tomorrow, I'll be on 10 a.m. I talk about Mint. If you're not using Mint, yeah. Okay, good. If you're not using Mint, you'll hear about it from me tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I highly encourage it. Again, this 2013 YouTube video that I watched, again, the top thing was Mint, on what you should be doing in terms of tracking your money and budgeting and all that. So do use that. So we'll be talking about Mint tomorrow, as we do every Monday, because I'm going to talk about it till everybody's on Mint. So thank you so much. Thank you, guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow on Periscope. Thanks. Bye.